welcome back. Today we're going to be working on using R to calculate a paired t-test, both the hypothesis test and then also a confidence interval for this type of data. So we're going to be using the data that we've used in the past, which is GVSU, and we're going to be looking at it, let me get myself set up, to see if a pair of measurements on students has some evidence of a difference and or maybe a direction. And so to do that, I'm going to start by creating a new variable in our data set. Now, what I am essentially doing is telling R that in the GVSU data set, I want you to create a new variable called difference, and I want you to take the week's study and subtract from that credits. Now, I'm doing that. It's going to make a whole new variable, so a whole new column, because I expect that the amount of study time per week needs to be greater than the amount of credits. Typically, they say 3 hours of work outside of class for every credit hour, but we're just going to do a blanket, like, week's study should be greater than credits. So we have a pair of measurements on each student, which is why this is paired data. Now, when I run that, you'll notice that nothing happens. If I were to go to the GVSU data set, you'll notice at the very end, so if we scroll all the way to the right, we have a new variable called differences. Now, remember, if it's negative, that tells you something. So based on the direction of subtraction, negative means that that individual had more credits than they study. And then if it's positive, it's going to indicate that they have more study time than credit time. Now, some of these answers are from GVSU students, but they seem a little ridiculous to me, but no judgment. So if you think the same thing, you're similar to me. Ooh, that's scary. All right. Now we're going to do a t-test, and we're going to do it with tilde, and that means for the differences. And remember that this data really boils down, the difference data boils down to being one quantitative variable, which means that when you look at this, when it says just t-test, you could do this for one quantitative variable or you could do it for differences because mathematically it's the same calculation. And then we're also going to add in a confidence interval. So I'm going to do confidence level, if I can spell that right. And remember that that has to be in decimal format. So I'm going to run that, and there is my analysis. So we have a t, which is enormous. 30 is a very large t-test statistic, and because it's positive, that indicates that study time or week study time is greater than credits because it's positive. So that's our degrees of freedom. Remember, that's just n minus 1. We have an extremely small p-value, so e negative 16 is the same as saying 2.2 times 10 to the negative 16, which means you would have 15 zeros after the decimal point and then a 2. So we have evidence that these two are in fact different, and then with the the confidence interval, we can see the direction of the difference. So here we would say we're 95% confident. The week study time is between 7.4 and 8.47 hours per week more than credits for GVSU students on average. So that's how we would interpret that. That's how we create it. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, see you in future videos.